Ladies and gentlemen, Fantastic Four is upon us. It's 3 months away or thereabouts, and we are starting to get a feel of what Fantastic Four is going to be all about as they are making major changes to the characters. Now, the major change that we initially heard about from the onset has already set people like myself off. Like, I really was put off by when I heard that they were going to be gender swapping Silver Surfer. And I know what some people were saying back then. Oh, Silver Surfer had a female Silver Surfer in the comic books. They had Shala Ball. It wasn't only Norrin Rad. We know that. But the storyline that they are going for when it comes to the Fantastic Four happens to be Norrin Rad. That was the person that was interacting with the Fantastic Four. So shut up. But in any case, you guys, that's not the only person that they are making changes to, as people are now up in arms as the more that we are hearing about the so-called Fantastic Four that is supposed to be the renaissance of MCU, the remontada of MCU, bringing back the MCU to where it was when they were actually keeping and staying true to the original IP. Now we are hearing they are making changes to certain characters. First, it was this story on Johnny Storm. So Joseph Quinn spoke to Marvel about Johnny Storm and where we are culturally. He was this womanizing guy, but is that sexy these days? I don't think so. Is that sexy to who, right? What does it concern you how the character was? This is what the character was that made the fans love the character the way it was. But when it comes to these people, when it comes to people like these actors, these elites, they're only thinking from their own perspective and how they perceive things and the echo chamber that they are in. They are not actually out there to represent these characters the way that the characters were depicted in the comic books and in the cartoons that made people love them so. So, in essence, this is what he has to say. He said he's a man that leads with a lot of bravado, which can be an effort sometimes, but also he's funny. Quinn said of Johnny, quote, myself and the Marvel Studio boss Kevin Feige were speaking about the previous iterations of him and where we actually are culturally. He's branded as this womanizing devil may care guy, but is that sexy these days? I don't think so. So we have to change him. We just definitely have to change him into the person that I think that he should be, which is more like me, because I'm not like that. I don't want to play that kind of a person. I want to play me and use that person as a platform to promote what I think, my agenda, my thought process, which is what many of these actors are doing these days. And he's not the only one who's actually doing this. As Sue Storm, I think Vanessa Kirby, who actually people love being the representation of Sue Storm or the person that is going to be playing Sue Storm. People actually love her. Like I done said before on the channel, when I found out, I said she was of proper age. People were saying that she's a little too old, being 38 and all. And I was like, Sue Storm is in around mid-30s to mid-40s. That's her age in the comic books as she was depicted in the old comic book and the original. So she was perfect. So Vanessa Kirby was absolutely perfect. But she's also saying that they're making changes to Sue Storm because Sue Storm, obviously the 1960s Sue Storm is obviously dated and
evidently so.
So essentially they are going to be doing what Vanessa Kirby confirms that Fantastic Four First Step explores gender politics with Sue Storm, because it's just not enough to depict her as the kind of person that she was in the 1960s. No. You have to depict her for something that is more acceptable for modern audiences, as that has worked out well for them. So let's dive right into what she has got to say. But before we do so, if you're yet with me, please do consider smashing the like button. And I sincerely do appreciate it when you do so. So without further ado, let's dive right into what she has to say, because she's been talking to Entertainment Weekly, and this is what she had to say about Sue Storm, right? Kirby spoke with Entertainment Weekly saying, if you played an exact 60s Sue Storm today, everyone would think that she is a doormat. Seriously? Everyone? Who's ever said that? Said nobody. Nobody ever thought Sue Storm at any point in time was a doormat, represented the way she was represented in the past, because this girl was the voice of reasoning amongst the team. The team was a family that was like a messy family who disagreed all the time, and it was mostly the disagreement was between the men, between Reed Richards and Ben Grimm, or between Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm, and so on and so forth. And she was the voice of reasoning who always tried to calm things down, and actually she was very vital to the team. And even back then, she was kicking ass and taking names. And if Vanessa Kirby has actually thought of actually reading this person's character arc from the beginning, she would have known that Sue Storm, even though in the beginning was more or less like portrayed as a damsel in distress, but even in those 60 comic book, she was also part of the people that was kicking ass and taking names. But she didn't read about that part. She just read about the political stance of why would she be a good, sweet mother in today's day and age. Is just not something that I want to explore. And she goes on to talk about how, or the aspects of Sue Storm that really intrigued her, that she really wanted to explore. She explained, one of the things I love most from Sue's history is when she becomes Malice and all her dark stuff comes out. I was obsessed with with that chapter of her life. So I wanted to make sure that there was tons of malice in there with her, that she wasn't just the stereotype of a goody sweet mother, because a goody sweet mother is not the kind of message that you want to portray or push towards women in this day and age. No, you want women to go out there and embrace their darkness, embrace their feminism and not their femininity, because like I've explained to you guys before, feminism and feminists, or rather, is anti-femininity. Right? Feminists is anti-femininity. They want women to forego their femininity, what makes them women, to try to be more like men, to try to be the go-getters, to be the CEO of Fortune 500 companies. But feminists do not know the hardship that a whole lot of men, the vast majority of men, 99% of men go through to actually be a man in today's day and age. Most women would not choose to pave the streets. They would not choose to be hanging on top of buildings, cleaning windows. They would not choose to be shoveling shit in some places, you know. They would not choose all those jobs, but men will do that because our focus is looking after our families. That's our job, to be the protector, to be the provider, and all of those things. And this is what forms the bedrock of society. You nurture and you care. You give us emotional comfort and you look after the kids, and we do the protective part. And when you have that dynamics in a family, you actually have a good society. However, what feminism is trying to push into society today is to make sure that everything is in chaos, everything is all the way around. So they want Johnny Storm to be more in touch with his feminine side and not be the player that we know Johnny Storm to be. That is an integral part of his character. Like it or not everybody's supposed to be perfect. So they want to push that, and they also want to turn Sue Storm into a boss lady, as she's together with Reed Richards creating an idealistic society. I thought that Fantastic Four was all about them being superheroes. And what do superheroes do? Fight the bad guys and save the day. Essentially, that's what they do. You give them a great story arc, they fight the bad guys and they save the day. However, these people want to push their gender politics, their ideologies at people, and that's what they are more focused on. And the question is, how has that worked out for them? With them pushing this politics in, you got to do better, Senator, with the Falcon and Winter Soldier series that has now led to a flop at the box office in Captain Wakanda, Brave New World, right? It's led to a flop. Captain Marvel, with all of the pushing of their feminist girl power bullshit, has led to a flop. With them pushing gender ideology and politics with the Eternals, it's led to a flop. Nobody wants to watch Echo because they keep on pushing this idea that, you know, disabled people are some kind of a marginalized community as well, and they need to be empowered. Nobody cares. Everything that they've been putting out there that has had to do with politics, nobody cares, because we are damn sick of them trying to preach to us on a consistent basis. A lot is riding on this Fantastic Four movie, but the news that we are getting about how they are changing these characters is really not going to be helping. So only time will tell how this is going to go. But ladies and gentlemen, I don't really think it's going too well as far as people are reacting to these particular stories right here, because if you even go on to the Twitters, let's take a few of the comments that we are seeing on the Twitterverse to see what's going on. It's not looking good at this particular point in time. Connor McLeod says, I wasn't going to watch it when I heard they gender swapped the Silver Surfer, one of my all-time favorite characters. Now, even funnier, just imagine a scene where Sue and Sally Surfer, not Silver Surfer, talks about menstrual pains and how Reed and Galactus just don't understand us, right? And, you know, he's right at the money, man. He's right at the money. Doc says, the movie I had interest in, or the only movie I had interest in, is losing my interest rapidly. So I'll be back to the same position I was since Endgame, not going to the theaters. And I don't blame you. I'm going to be going to the theaters because I got to talk about this on the channel. So that's the reason why I'm going to be going to the theaters. Carl Cole says it's kind of amazing how they went from their mediocre movies making $1 billion at the box office, Black Panther, I'm looking at you, and as well as Captain Marvel, I'm looking at you, to bomb at the box office after bomb after bomb, and they're still doubling down on this nonsense. So those other movies, they actually made sense and they made a lot of money, even though some of them were mediocre, but they made money because the politics wasn't being pushed. And now that you continue to push this nonsense, it doesn't work. But are they going to stop? They're not going to stop. Cassie says, can we just have an action-packed movie that tells a good story? Why, Marvel? Why? And that's exactly how I feel. Just tell us a good story. Give us a good storyline, and people will be happy with you. None of this bullshit and this nonsense of you trying to self-insert yourself into the character, or having actors that want to self-insert themselves. And you can see that these actors are literally telling Kevin Feige and telling Marvel and the producers, the directors, how they want to portray these characters that we love, instead of actually portraying the characters as they were when we fell in love with these characters. So only time will tell how this movie is going to do at the box office, but I'm telling you guys now, it's not looking good.